Hi everyone, welcome to another comics loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I am delighted to be talking with comics creator Jorge Coelho. George, thank you for jumping in and talking with me for a few minutes today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're welcome.
My pleasure as well. I'm gonna fix my hair. I have some stray hair there. We'll edit that part out. Um, So curious about, and I'll mention a couple of titles that you've worked on. You've worked on several, an adaptation of The Great Gatsby,
Yeah, yeah,
Rocket, Robocop, Haunted
yeah.
Mansion, and several others as well. Curious about how you knew comics were the space that you wanted to create in.
So, I believe I started reading comics before I knew how to read. So I
Mm,
believe I learned to read with comics. So in those early years, there wasn't much difference between fantasy and reality.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
didn't know. I didn't know it was people that did that. When I found out on interviews that some artist had the studio with several artists, I found out that people did that, and I already loved it since my first grade. I always had the passion for it and the secret desire to do it, although I didn't know my life would lead me to here. But
Yeah,
it was a winding road that finally came to my first passion.
love that, love it. What sorts of stories are you drawn to in your creating?
Well, I love so much the medium that I believe my style is to tell any story. I don't have a preference. I have a
Mhm,
preference for good stories, but what is a good story? It's so personal. I have
yeah,
a passion for telling good stories, not any style, not any genre in specific, but feeling that I'm getting through the audience through
mhm.
story.
Yeah, well, and you have this wonderful range, as I mentioned, RoboCop to The Great Gatsby to Haunted Mansion. I mean, you have a an
Yeah.
approach that embraces all, it seems.
It's not that commercial. I believe it's I'm kind of shooting myself in the feet, but in the foot. But um, but it's my style. My style is to tell any kind of story. So I don't fix myself to one kind of style. And I believe it hasn't been very commercial for me, but it
Hmm.
has been very, very rewarding to how can I tell this the best way? And
Yeah.
that challenge in the beginning is one of my passions. Like I would probably be more attracted to a new kind of story, imagine a detective story. I never done one of those,
Hmm.
than a kind of story I already did before.
Love it, love it.
Yeah.
Are there particular collaborations or experiences in your career so far that have sort of bubbled to the surface and been some of the most positive ones?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. There's personal achievements like I love doing John Flood for Boom
Hmm. Hmm.
Studios. It was an original series, and I believe that the partnership was very, very good. Working with Jason and working with Tamra was just awesome, and the final product was so rewarding that my biggest problem was the series ended and we weren't able to continue it. That was one of my personal favorites. But I love doing the Haunted Mansion and trying to adapt those visuals from the ride, the original Disney parks ride to a comic book. And I love the Robocop, although I think that we could have done better, but at the time it was the best I could do. There's several partnerships and some on the personal level also with with editors and with colleagues. So The Great Gatsby was a great collaboration. Like I had an immense um, sorry we had I had a great openness. That's the word, openness from the team, the editor team, that to the point that I submitted one extra book. I argued that the ending would be more organic and more in pace with the prior chapters, and
Hmm.
they'd say, okay, if you think that's better, we'll do that. And on those kinds of choices, it was very good to have that support, and I
Yeah.
felt it very rewarding. It was great.
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah. As an English teacher, I'm always amazed at how stories like The Great Gatsby, they don't connect with all readers necessarily, but they still continue to connect with so many. Um,
Somehow, isn't it?
yeah.
Somehow they vibrate through time, and they
Hmm.
still have that nugget of, I don't know if it's integrity, if it's the personal shape, creativity of the author at that year, at that time. But some masterworks are just masterworks. It's difficult to explain why.
True. Very true. Very true. Um, in your personal style, are there particular tools or approaches that you like to take as you're working?
Oh yeah, definitely. I prefer the doing by hand,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I would love to step it up someday and not have to paint in computer and paint in the original page. The more I learn about new techniques, which I respect and I think they're all tools, but I prefer doing it by hand. So I do it by with Indian ink, with so I have it here. I have
Oh, I love it. Yeah, yeah.
pen nibs, brushes, white out. So I love the old school tools
Yes, yeah.
and drawing in paper. And inclusively, I had a bad experience. Like I had to paint a big job for 3 months, and
Mm,
I started having sciatic nerve pains. And I reasoned well, I think, that it was because I was doing such a static work,
mm,
painting on the Cintiq, that my range of movement shrank and shrank, and I
mhm,
was becoming ill with it. And just by grabbing the rulers, grabbing the paper, and moving myself more at the table, I think that working by hand is more ergonomic and it's more healthy
mhm.
for the body, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Um, being a professor at one time, I have also dealt with that of, hey, I've been sitting here. I need to get up and move around. And yeah, the personal health is definitely part of the work and part that you have to keep in mind. Um, Yeah. As a final official question, and then we can hit anything that we might have missed. I always like to ask about current creative visions, things that you're working on that you can talk about, as well as spaces where you like to connect with people.
All right. So ultimately, I've been connecting just by the internet. I
Hmm.
haven't done anything physical ever since before COVID. So this year, I want to go to the New York Comic Con and I want to reconnect and be seen and see people because that's
Yes.
very important. And I also I can talk about what I'm working because I'm just doing pitches. So
Oh, okay.
we're
Hmm.
in the very early stage. I'm excited to get in touch with new writers, and I hope that those projects come to fruition. But I'm doing a film, a long film with the director here in Portugal with animated drawings. It's
Oh,
not pure
wonderful.
animation, but cutout drawings. So I supply the drawings with layers and then the director takes them and animates them and then makes them come to life. And
Love
it's
it.
been an incredible experience because I've done storyboards for some years before I got into comics.
Hmm.
And it keeps me flexing those muscles. And it's cool not to do always the same thing, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So flipping a bit to cinema, it's been very good to me. And right now I'm working on a poster for a Comic Con here in Portugal for a Maya festival, which is so I took a statue from the city
Hmm.
and I put the statue reading a comic and the people cosplaying walking by beneath the statue. So I'm working on that right now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, have we missed anything in the talk that you want to make sure to share before we close?
Mm. I believe like comics, they reflect our natural attraction to storytelling.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think comics will never die, despite any technology. It might mutate,
Hmm.
might transform onto something, but the core of it, telling stories with the images and words also, I think they won't ever go away. So uh, I don't. I'll. I'm just trying to leave a nice word for people that think that comics is going to end in 15 days, in 2 weeks. That seems it's the permanent state ever since they arose. But
Yeah,
I think not. I think comics is an eternal medium.
I agree. I agree. May it be so, and may your creating in comics continue for some time to come.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, Jason.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much.